Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson. Project completed by Emma, Cole, Xander, Owen, Matt, and Davis. Period 3A. Imagine a 13-year-old boy with a mental disability. Joe Sullivan was convicted of a non-homicidal crime and sentenced to life in prison without parole. While in prison, he was a victim of sexual assault and developed multiple sclerosis, which forced him into a wheelchair. Doctors concluded that his neurological disorder was likely triggered by his trauma in prison. During this time in prison, Joe was regularly placed in a tiny cell, so small that prison officials could hardly remove Joe's wheelchair from the cell. This is Joe, and this is a true story. Joe's story demonstrates the physical and mental trauma that the justice system can inflict on the convicted. Unfortunately, Joe's story is not unique. Some prisoners are so traumatized by the prison experience that they commit suicide, and inmate suicide rates are on the rise as the number of deaths has increased from 75 in 2013 to 84 in 2014. Additionally, the number of reported instances of assault have increased by 1,500 between 2013 and 2014. Inmates in solitary confinement have extremely limited contact with other humans and inadequate access to rehabilitative services as well as medical and mental health assistance. Inmates in solitary confinement spend 23 hours each day in a small cell like the one pictured. These are the conditions similar to those that Joe faced. Prison guards like the one pictured are required to search these cells during the 1 hour inmates are in the recreation room. Past inmates have called solitary confinement inhumane and tantamount to psychological torture. Allowing solitary confinement is just one of the ways the U.S. criminal justice system disregards its prisoners' humanity. Not only are conditions poor, but they are not helping to rehabilitate prisoners. In a study of 404,638 inmates from 30 different states, over 274,000 released inmates were arrested within 3 years, and over 309,000 within 5 years. The justice system is failing to provide an environment that encourages reformation for its inmates. Federico Valencia is pictured in 2013 while he is being arrested by Los Angeles police. He was arrested for using the chemical nitrous oxide to create a recreational drug which he intended to sell. He was first arrested in 2009 for the same charges. This example proves that the justice system is not working to help the condemned in the way that the public thinks it is. Here, David Williams IV is being arrested by the FBI for plotting to blow up synagogues and shooting down military aircrafts in New York City in 2009. He was first arrested in 2003 for cocaine possession and served a 3-year prison sentence. This is yet another example of the prison system failing to help an inmate. The problems with the justice system are not simply within the prisons themselves. Even those who stay out of jail have problems finding help once they are released. Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, acronym TANF, provides food stamps and other family services to convicts, but some states have restrictions for drug felons. The 10 states in dark blue have full bans, and the 27 states in light blue have modified bans. Johnny Waller Jr.'s 1998 felony drug conviction has haunted him since the day he left a Nebraska prison in 2001. Waller has applied for 175 jobs without success. When his toddler, Jordan, was diagnosed with stomach cancer and needed full-time care, Waller's record disqualified him from receiving food stamps. Restrictions against prisoners often have a negative effect on innocent families. Mike Danielson, who is on parole for theft and drug charges, says the state of Colorado is not allowing him to vote. A state law prohibits him and over 6,000 other convicts from voting. The biases against former criminals seems to place him in a category of being less than non-criminals, evidenced by TANF restrictions and voting restrictions. Despite all the injustices the U.S. justice system and the U.S. government have imparted on their prisoners, some U.S. prisons have made it a goal to rehabilitate and reintegrate their inmates. In Minnesota, non-dangerous offenders are attempting to repay society for their crimes by building houses in the community. However, this program does not include rehabilitation for prisoners that are deemed dangerous. Another example is a program in California where inmates have the chance to work as firefighters. These inmates learn the value of helping their communities, and in turn, the community learns that the incarcerated are not always bad people and can be helpful. The work and the skills learned can give prisoners a sense of purpose while they serve their time in prison. Despite the fact that a few select prisons are offering work opportunities to their inmates, it is extremely difficult for released prisoners to find work after they are released. The American Bar Association has documented over 27,000 state occupational licensing restrictions nationwide for people with a criminal record. North Carolina has the second highest of the southern states with 641 restrictions. These restrictions can make it hard for prisoners to reintegrate back into society and find jobs. These restrictions can negatively impact the economic situations of freed prisoners and their families, who are simply trying to support themselves. Tamisha Walker is an ex-convict from California. She was denied a job at Burlington Coat Factory because she was an ex-convict. Additionally, prison has destroyed the lives of many innocent people. In North Carolina, in 1976, Joseph Sledge was falsely accused of killing 74-year-old Josephine Davis and her 57-year-old daughter. He received a life in prison sentence. In 2012, investigators found previously lost evidence, and a key witness came out and said that he had been coached in 1978. Sledge was released 36 years later because of DNA evidence that proved his innocence. The justice system did nothing to help a man who was wrongfully convicted, and evidence from the case was even hidden to make it harder to discover the truth. This shows that the justice system did nothing to help and everything to harm an individual who had done nothing wrong. The Innocence Project helps people like Joseph Sledge. The Innocence Project is a nonprofit organization that was founded in 1992 with the goal to exonerate the wrongfully convicted through DNA testing and to reform the criminal justice system to prevent further injustices. The Innocence Project has created a greater understanding among the public that the criminal justice system makes mistakes and needs reform. Andre Hatchett was an individual who was released from prison with the help of the Innocence Project. Hatchett has a mental disorder and was convicted for murder. After suffering for 25 years in prison for a crime he knew he had not committed, the Innocence Project, which sought reinvestigation, helped exonerate Andre, releasing him from the mental anguish of being wrongfully incarcerated. Instead of assisting or reforming the condemned, the U.S. criminal justice system and the U.S. government traumatize and exploit those who need the most help, evidenced by the assaults in prisons, wrongful convictions, welfare restrictions, and licensing restrictions. Inmates and convicts need more reform and more help from organizations like the Innocence Project to be treated more humanely.